Two more lessons, I promise, and then I'll be quiet and I'll just let you work in your sketchbooks. We're going to look at now how we're using our black books in urban art, and I just want to give you some tips and tricks and some, theory kind of behind it. So we're looking now at the PowerPoint and how to use your black book. Um, Now, I've stressed to you that this black book is yours and you can use it any way that you want, but I want to give an argument about drawing. I'm totally open for you to do anything in your black book, and you need to find your own style, what you enjoy, and what you're good at. There's not one type of art, there's tons of different types of art. In fact, you don't even need to draw to be an artist. But you can draw in it. You can doodle, you can paint, you can finger paint, glue stuff in it, anything that you want. Um, Again, I mentioned before that this is a place for you to refine your skills and experiment with stuff and explore ideas and plan out your projects. This is what's going on in your head, and this is where you're putting it all on paper. But I really want to stress before I talk about drawing and how we're going to use your black book is that there's no right way to draw. And this was a quote by really crazy abstract artist, and his name is Jackson Pollock. And I totally believe that. We've sort of been taught, I think, in the past that there's one way to draw, and that's realistically. And I want to stress that you need to find your own way that you want to draw, and one isn't better than another. We can appreciate a little bit from, we can appreciate realism, but also we can appreciate cool doodles. Um, One's not better than the other. We can just appreciate different skills. You need to find your own way of drawing and whatever you're good at, and most importantly, what you enjoy. Just like everybody's signature is different, the way that you draw is going to be different. So don't try and draw like somebody else. Try and draw like you. But I do want to make an argument for drawing because drawing is not only a great form of expression, but it's a great brain training tool and a great way to sort of visually communicate your ideas. It's a habit that you can develop for your whole life, and it totally reduces stress. It's a great way to improve your communication skills. It's personal. It definitely records the life around you way better than taking a photo. And it definitely is a mental exercise, and it trains your brain to solve problems. And to prove this, I want to think about 40,000 years ago. 40,000 years ago, human beings, they didn't even have a written language. They barely had a spoken language. But somehow they still developed a drawing language. And for some reason, human beings just have this need to leave messages for other humans to see in the future. And this goes back to some of the early caves that they discovered in France. And so the image on the right is we're looking at images of animals around them, and these are deep in the caves where they had big fire torches and what they're using their fingers to draw into the cave walls, and the colors that they have are like charcoal and blood, and but still for them to depict, I don't know if you've ever tried to draw a horse, but it's actually pretty hard. But for them to draw these animals just from their memory, right? It's not like they had the horse in the cave and the horse is staying still and they're drawing it. This is all from their memory, so it's pretty incredible. Again, barely a spoken language and absolutely no written language. The image on the left is the coolest thing for me. It's kind of like the first spray can where these human beings put their hand on a cave wall and they chewed up a bunch of charcoal and things like that, and they put it in a reed and they spit, and they kind of use their hand as a stencil. And it's like to say that they were there. So that's unbelievable that these are handprints from 40,000 years ago. So this is natural to us. And this freedom to create, if you remember being a kid, or if you have younger siblings and you see them create, it's just amazing. You give them a piece of paper and they just go right at it and they just draw. That piece of paper has infinite number of possibilities, and they're not afraid at all. They just go for it. And then it may be a bunch of scribbles and you ask them what it's about and they can tell you a whole story. But as adults, somehow we are like afraid of drawing, because when we draw, we think that it's something that's going to be judged as good or bad. And it's that fear of us being judged is what stops us from drawing. So you're lucky because you're sort of in the middle, right, between being a child and a total adult. So I'm hoping that I can grab you right now and just show you how to sort of get rid of that fear, because that that your own fear of being judged is what, is your creative block. That's what makes you feel incapable. So it's just all in your head. So everybody can draw, and there's no one right way. Now, and I think a lot of it comes from the traditional approach to drawing, where that's like more of an academic way at drawing, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'm really good at it and I enjoy doing that. But that's when, you're really good at shading and making things look realistic with proportions and perspective, and people seem to appreciate that more. And it's one way of drawing, but it's not the only way. And if you enjoy working that way, that's awesome. But you don't have to. But really, a camera records the world better than any artist could. Our approach is going to include the traditional approach, but I want you to know that we still have some rules and there's standards, but we're going to establish them for ourselves. But our ultimate goal is to find our own unique way to draw and create. So there's 4 stages of learning. Um, I don't want to talk about this too much. I've decided I've changed my mind. But what I want you to do is what it comes down to, I want you to trust yourself, and I want you to not give up on your own style. Okay. My tip for your black book is to carry it with you everywhere you go. So at any moment you can record your ideas and your inspiration, but it records your memories better than any photograph, and it totally will affect the world around you and how you see it. So when I was in high school, these are some of my high school drawings that were from a long time ago. And I actually got my sketchbook taken away from me because in every class, what I would end up doing was just drawing all the time. But that's the only way I could listen to the teacher talk. I had to be doing something at the same time. I totally was listening, but I had to be doing something. So I wasn't allowed to bring my sketchbook anymore. It was taken away. So what ended up happening is all my notes in class, because that was before computers, I ended up drawing. So I ended up drawing things like in biology class, the skeleton that was in there. In music class, I traced my hand and then I sketched it in. I still took my notes. I drew a lot of people because it was perfect. It was people sleeping in class. I'm drawing somebody else in art class doing their art. I'm drawing somebody else in phys ed. I remember in health, them taking notes. And I remember those people, and I remember that time so much because I spent so much time in that moment drawing them. And teachers were the best, right? Because you have to sit and stare at the front and you're staring at them the whole time. So I drew my teachers, and you can see all the notes and everything that I have around there. But I remember the teachers. I remember what they looked like. I studied them way better than a photograph. So that ended up being my sketchbook. And I was paying attention. I did take notes. But that's how I understood the world around me. Another thing that we can use so you can have your sketchbook with you all the time is have a piece of sandpaper in the very back of your book. So it's a portable pencil sharpener. So anywhere you go, you can just rub your pencil on the sandpaper in the back, or your pencil crayons, and they're always sharp there for you. So I'm going to give you a piece of adhesive sandpaper that you can stick to the back. So you always have that. So I'll give that to you as well. Another thing you can do is you can make a pocket in your book. So I did a really horrible example here, but if you take a one piece of paper in your book and you tear it in half or cut it in half, and then you either staple or you tape the edges on the bottom, then you have a pocket. So you can collect stickers, you can collect leaves, notes, like just things that when you're out and about that are kind of cool and you want to save for later, you can put them in there. So those are some of the ways that we can use your black book. So I'm finally going to give you a black book assignment. Next lesson.